What we're going to do today is go into each of the cars and then look for ones with third row seats, sit in the second row and the third row, and see how that goes. First up, we have the 2025 Toyota Sequoia. In the 25 Toyota Sequoia, this is the third row. You can see it's kind of tight back here. This is my shoe. I was able to fit one of my shoes right under the seat, but my second one is sticking out this side. My knee doesn't really have space to move. It's stuck flat against the seat, and there's my shoe. And here's what the third row looks like with a couple of cup holders and stuff. If you sit in the middle, you can spread your legs out. Next up, we have the Toyota Grand Highlander. Now this one here, in the second row, it does have a pretty decent amount of space. You do have your thighs sitting flush against the seat, which is great. Now going back to the third row with the second position as is, you can see that my feet fit a lot better than they did in the Sequoia. You can see I have some room to move my legs, although my thighs, or my quadriceps, whichever that is, doesn't sit flat against the seat. There's still some room from here to the seat, and that's great. About 4 fingers worth of room. This is the 2025 Toyota Sienna. Now, vans typically do very well in terms of second and third row room. The seat in the second row can slide all the way back or all the way forward. Lots of room here in the second row. And now we're here in the third row, and there is plenty of room with the second row where it is. You can see there's so much room to move my feet, and that is absolutely excellent. Very good, lots of space back here. And I believe this would be a very good place to sit in a long road trip. This is the 2025 Chevrolet Traverse. In the second row, we do have just enough room here. Of course, not as much as a minivan, but you can see we still have decent space between this and the front seat in front of it, which is put all the way back. Now going into the third row, let's get an idea of this. It looks a bit more spacious than the Sequoia, but let's confirm that. I'm able to stick my shoe right under the seat, both of them actually. And as for space, it's about 2 fingers, maybe 3 fingers to the front seat in the second row. And then if we look down here, this is how much space you get to the seat below you. This is the 2025 Chevy Tahoe. Climbing into the second row seat, there is a lot of space, a lot more than you see in the Chevy Traverse. And leaving that second row as is, climbing into the third row, what I do like is that bottom part of the bench is a bit higher to sit much taller adults. You can see that there's pretty decent room back here, about 4 fingers of space between me and the second row seat, although my shoe sticks out just a little bit. If you're sitting in the middle and stretching out, you can see you can move your legs from left to right. Absolutely nice. Here's the 2025 Chevrolet Suburban. Hopping into the nice brown leather seats of the Suburban, you can see that the second row has a similar amount of room as the Tahoe did. Of course, similar vehicle, similar base, except the Suburban is a bit longer. And now climbing into the third row, of course, we're going to see, does that extra length give you more room? And actually, yes, it does. So about 6 fingers worth of space of the front seat in front of me, and pretty decent amount of space to stretch out. This is the 2025 Grand Cherokee. Hopping into the second row of the Grand Cherokee, I believe that this had a bit less space than the Tahoe, although not as much in the second row. I didn't like that my legs couldn't sit flat on the bottom part of the seat. Going now into the third row, you see there's 2 seats rather than 3 seats in the third row. And in terms of room, you can see about 4 fingers worth of room to the second row seat. About this much space between my legs and the seat. The Chrysler Pacifica I found to be pretty nice. Most minivans are pretty good. Hopping into the second row seat, and there was pretty decent amount of room. Lots of room to move around actually compared to the Toyota Sienna, which I found to be similar. Able to sit flat onto the seat, which is absolutely great. The third row seat also had great amount of room, so you can see the second row seat in front. Definitely giving this a thumbs up. About 8 fingers worth of room to the second row in front, and I'm able to sit flat against the bottom of the seat. Love it. 2025 Lexus TX. Second row seat, less room compared to the Tahoe. about 6 fingers in the second row. Of course, you can move that front seat a bit more forward. Pushing this button, pushing this row forward, and sitting in the third row, this is what we get. So my legs about 3 fingers away from the second row seat, and it's quite uncomfortable, especially given the space between my legs and the bottom of the seat. Here is the Cadillac Escalade IQ. I love the materials in the Cadillac Escalade IQ. This was pretty nicely done. Pretty decent room here. Of course, not as much as a Tahoe, given the IQ is a bit smaller in terms of form. Hopping into the third row, I like that they continued the quilted patterned leather back here. Now that I've placed myself back here, you can see about 3 fingers of room. And then you can see my legs don't sit flat onto the seat here. Would prefer to be in the second row if I was sitting here. This is the short version of the Cadillac Escalade. Now hopping into the short version of the Cadillac Escalade, we have this nice brown leather. There is 3 seats in the second row. The room over here is similar to the Tahoe, of course, given they're based on a similar platform. Now pushing this seat forward and hopping into the third row. I believe that the Escalade's second row has a bit more room, if you look at this. About 2 fingers of space back here in the third row, which was surprising compared to the Tahoe. And my feet don't sit flat against the bottom of the seat there. This is the 2025 Kia Telluride. A lot of people love this car from what I've seen. Pretty nice, I must say. The first row and second row are pretty nice. Pretty decent amount of legroom here in the back. I'd say similar to a Chevy Tahoe. And now hopping into the third row seat here, you can see my legs still have a bit of room, about 3 fingers worth of room to the second row seat in front, although the back of my legs don't sit flush against the bottom of the seat here. This is the Kia Sorento, which now has a third row seat. So hopping into the second row, you can see there's pretty nice amount of legroom back here. Of course, not as much as a Chevy Tahoe, but it looks pretty close. These seats do come forward and backward as well, depending on if you have third row passengers. So first up here, as I squeeze into the third row seat, oh my gosh, there's no legroom back here. Can't even stick a finger there. And there's a lot of space between here and the bottom of the seat. But if I scoot the seat a bit forward, I'm able to get about 3 fingers worth of room. The VW ID Buzz was actually surprising. The second row seat was pretty nice. Pretty decent amount of room, similar to a Chevy Tahoe. But when I climb back into the third row, that's one of the most spacious third rows I've seen, only rivaling other minivans. But I feel like this was a bit more comfortable, especially given the size and shape of it. This is the Infiniti QX60. QX60 had some nice brown leather. Hopping into the second row here. The amount of legroom in this one is okay. I'd say about 6 fingers in the second row. Now take a look at that with a nice quilted leather. Pushing this seat forward, we can hop into the third row seat. And in the third row, you can see that I'm able to fit just 1 finger, maybe 1.5 fingers between me and the second row seat. And the back of my legs don't sit flush against the bottom of the seat. This is the newly refined Infiniti QX80. When I was in Dubai, I had to sit in the back row of a QX80, and it was okay. Second row legroom is about similar compared to a Chevy Tahoe. Pretty nice red leather quilted here. Now I'm going to hop into the back seat. And in the back seat, I'm able to fit 4 fingers exactly between me and the second row in front of me. Not able to sit flush with the bottom of the seat. This is the 2025 Ford Explorer. Pretty nice red trim in the Ford Explorer. Looking at this seat, about similar room as a Chevy Tahoe. Now going into the third row. And in the third row, you can see there's about 2 fingers worth of room to the second row in front of me, and my legs don't sit flush against the bottom of the seat. But if I scoot that middle seat forward, I'm able to expand it to about 4 fingers worth of room. But my legs still don't sit flush with the bottom of. If you found this entertaining, please like, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you very much for watching.